decided I want some homemade ice cream. I don't make ice cream very often. It's probably been, I don't know, 2 or 3 years since I've made some. It's strange, I always get the desire for homemade ice cream in the winter when it's cold. I think that's because when I was a child growing up, that's when you made ice cream. You made it in the winter because there was lots of ice available to make it with. Neighbors of mine, when I was growing up, used to make it frequently, and I got to turn the crank on their old-fashioned ice cream maker. The container that the mix goes in is steel, and around the outside of it you put ice. We would just go outside and get ice out of a pond or whatever, and rock salt. The rock salt melts the ice and creates a super cold slurry that the container is in, and inside the container you have the paddles. When you turn the crank, it keeps scraping the ice cream that's forming on the edges of the metal container. Long definition for something that you probably already knew. Anyway, this recipe is quite simple. I am modifying it a bit, hoping it still works. That's 2 cups of cream. What they call coffee cream here. It's 18% butterfat. The actual recipe that I'm following called for 2 cups of heavy cream and 2 cups of milk, whole milk. So I'm hoping that the 2 cups of 18% is pretty much the same as when you mix the two together. And I don't know now if I said 2 or 4. That's 4 cups in there. And I'm just going to turn the flame on medium. You don't want it to boil, but you want to bring it almost to a boil, up to a simmer. And meanwhile, we'll get the other ingredients ready. That's 2 egg yolks. I managed to break both of them, separating them, but that's just the yolks of 2 eggs, large eggs. A ½ cup of granulated white sugar. And the actual recipe, again, that I'm following called for putting an inch piece or a 2-inch piece of vanilla bean in with the cream that's heating up. And then also adding 2 tablespoons of vanilla extract. Well, I'm using something that I have never used before. I've seen it a lot on cooking programs, and it's a vanilla bean paste, and really it has the, I don't know if to call it a paste or not, it's really quite thick. I'm going to put 2 tablespoons of it instead of 2 tablespoons of vanilla extract. This, you substitute this for equal amount of extract, but the advantage of it is that it has the seeds in it from the vanilla pod, so you don't have to use a vanilla pod. I guess I got most of that out of there. And this just gets combined. The egg yolks are what will sort of thicken the custard that you're going to freeze into an ice cream. So the cream is quite hot. So the next thing to do is to take a small amount of the cream, ½ a cup or so, and add it to the egg mixture here. That's to temper the egg mixture, so in theory you don't end up with curdled or scrambled eggs when you're adding it back into the cream. So this gets added slowly back into the cream. You have to keep stirring constantly here so that it doesn't scramble or curdle. All the goodness out of there, hopefully. Now you stir constantly until it slightly thickens, until it will coat the back of a wooden spoon or whatever. So that will take 3 or 4 minutes. I'll bring you back at that point. Well, I timed it for 4 minutes, and it is thickened, but it's not, not even like a pouring custard or whatever. But if you your finger across the back of a spoon there, that is a sign that it has thickened enough. The space doesn't fill back in. Now I think I will strain it through a fine strainer just in case there's any bits of curdled egg in there. You can see lots of the vanilla bean seeds in there. I don't want to force anything down through, but it is a very fine sieve. I don't think any of the other particles. Yeah, I do see some bits of egg yolk there that I wouldn't have wanted to show up in the ice cream. Now this must get completely cooled, chilled, before you can put it in the freezer. So it will go in the ice cream freezer. It will go in the refrigerator now for 3 or 4 hours, and I'll bring you back once it's completely chilled. Several hours later here, and the custard is cooled. As you can see, there's not a lot of the vanilla seeds had settled to the bottom. This is one of those ice cream makers that you keep this part of it in the freezer all the time, and I don't know, it's double walled with some kind of a liquid in between that either freezes or gets super cold anyway. But this will run now for about a half hour. I won't turn it on when I finish talking because it's fairly noisy. At the end of the half hour, normally what you have is a soft serve type ice cream, and you put it in a sealed container and in the freezer, and you get something firmer that you can use an ice cream scoop with. But anyway, we'll see what it's like in 30 minutes time. If I can remember to do it, I'll bring you back and show you halfway through, because it's quite interesting. Looking down inside there, you'll start to see the ice cream building up. Well, this is after 20 minutes, and I guess you can see that it is turning into a soft ice cream. I'll let it go for another 5 or 10 minutes. It gets too thick, it sort of even slows down the machine. I don't want to burn the motor out. Gotta taste that though. Oh, very good. A really good vanilla flavor. Not overly sweet, which is good. Well, I'll bring you back and show you the final thing here. Well, I think that's enough. I'll let it finish in the regular freezer. It's still turning quite freely, but it's fairly solid. And I get the fun of licking off the beater. If I can get to it before it all melts. Well, I will put that in a container for the freezer to firm it up a little more. I'll show you how much I get before I put it in the freezer. I guess I could have used a smaller container. I didn't know quite what to expect, but I don't know, well, had a quart of liquid and it expands some when it's frozen, so it's more than a quart of ice cream, I guess. But anyway, it's going in the freezer now for several hours to firm up, I've been tasting it, of course, as I've been cleaning that out of there, and it does taste very good, but I'll bring you back and show you a dish of it shortly. Well, it's been in the freezer overnight now. This is day 2 of my ice cream production. And what I always notice about homemade ice cream is it freezes much more solid than the commercially made kind. Maybe because of all the additives that are in the commercially made kind, I don't know, but it always seems to be much harder to get out of the container than when you buy a tub of commercially made ice cream. It has a lovely flavor. I think I already said when I was sampling it yesterday. The vanilla really is quite pronounced. I like that vanilla paste. Probably not showing up on the video, but I can see the little black seeds here, there, and everywhere. And the only half a cup of sugar. It isn't as sickeningly sweet as some commercial varieties are. I'm thinking of something that I bought a few months ago. An in-store brand name for a large shopping center store in Maine. It was in the ice cream department. I can't recall what they called it. I just thought I was buying ice cream anyway, but I got it home and had a dish of it and I thought that is the strangest texture and tasting stuff. So I got the container out and looked at it. As I said, I don't remember what they called it, but they didn't call it ice cream. They called it some kind of a frozen treat or whatever. I looked at the list of ingredients. That was the first time I had ever seen on the list of ingredients, it stated that it used GMO products. There were genetically modified organisms in it. But what was not in it is there was not anything dairy. It was a collection of oils and chemicals and flavorings and whatever. Anyway, I threw it out. This is much better. This ice cream is Angel approved. She doesn't often get a treat like that, but she does love something cold and sweet. So, thank you very much for watching. That concludes this little video.